So a couple of weeks ago, the government released the federal budget for 2026 to 2027, and I just wanted to go through it with you today and show you some of the key changes inside the budget that will affect you most likely. Now, disclaimer, they frame it as a intergenerational helping budget that's going to help young Aussies get into the housing market, reduce their tax. But in reality, the way that I interpreted it, it was more of a tax grab, raising Australia to one of the highest tax nations in the world without really seeing much of the benefit. But let's get into it. Before we get into the video, my name is Michael. I ran in the last election as an independent candidate for Wentworth, and my goal is to become the Prime Minister of Australia one day. And this YouTube channel is really just a way to show my progress and views on politics over the years. So make sure you stay subscribed and follow along as my journey to become Prime Minister. Back to the video. So this was the speech that the Honourable Dr. Jim Chalmers, MP, the Treasurer of the Albanese government, said, saying that this is the most important and ambitious budgets in decades. Powerful stuff, Jim. Important because the world is throwing a lot at us, and this budget is about helping Aussies deal with these challenges. And ambitious because we have so much going for us, and this budget is about Australia seizing these opportunities. Wow. Whatever's in this budget must be good, right? Jeez. And so what he says is the core of the budget is 5 main parts: getting through the global oil shock and building resilience, taking the pressure off people where we can, making the economy more productive to lift living standards over time, reforming the tax system for workers, businesses, and future generations, including a new tax cut for every working Australian taxpayer. We'll get to that. And then finally, making the budget stronger, more sustainable, and helping to take the pressure off inflation by saving more when we can. Did they achieve this? Not really, but we'll get to that. So, what do they do? Well, they did a whole bunch of things, and they basically focused on tax reform, care and opportunity, its security investment, productivity, cost of living, and fuel supply and security. So let's summarize all of this. What are the key changes that came out of this? Well, the first big change is the change to the capital gains tax. Basically, from the 1st of July, the capital gains tax discount will be replaced by indexation of assets held for more than 12 months with a minimum of 30% tax. So you used to get a 50% tax discount when you sold something that you held on to for a while, which was pretty good. You got to retain a lot of the money that you get. But now they've lowered that down to 30%. So you need to pay a minimum of 30% of the tax instead of the discount of 50%. So who does this benefit? Well, not really anyone. It benefits the government, because the government will be able to obtain more money in the long run, which I suppose is good for them. It means they can spend more money and hopefully get a surplus in the future and reduce the debt burden on the government, because we are at $1 trillion, which is not great. Probably the biggest thing that they did was the negative gearing change. What do? They grandfathered negative gearing. So anybody who is currently negative gearing their properties can continue to do so. And all of us young guys who are trying to get into the market, well, we're all out of luck. No negative gearing for us. So when they were saying that this is an intergenerational issue and they're trying to help young Aussies get into the market, well, you probably shouldn't grandfather negative gearing. What they should have done is removed negative gearing altogether, or capped it at one property for everybody. So every single person can still negatively gear, but they can only do it for one. But then they literally took the approach that is the worst. Like, grandfathering negative gearing. Basically, everybody who's still doing it can keep doing it, and all of us can't do it. It's a terrible change, honestly. This is an absolutely terrible change that really doesn't benefit any of us young guys and gals who are trying to get into the market. Like, absolutely terrible. One thing that is Also interesting is they are trying to get rid of family trusts. So a lot of families will have trusts so that they can kind of avoid or negate the amount of tax that they pay. Well, these guys were like, nope, no more. We're going to tax you guys. We need to bring more money into the government. And so now they face a 30% minimum tax on the taxable income. So basically just raising taxes for these families, which I suppose how you look at it could be good or bad. If you have a family trust, it's bad. If you don't, it's good. Like, again, it just brings more money into the government. What they were saying to help every single Australian taxpayer is this: a $250 tax offset to provide tax relief starting on the 1st of July next year. What does this mean? Well, you can reduce your taxable income by $250 next year, which is a save of $5 a week. Thank you, Jim. That is fantastic. I'm so glad that we could save $5 a week now. So now maybe I can save on a single avocado or, 1 liter of petrol. Fantastic. Another thing that the budget said was that the deficit, so, the amount of money that the Australian government owes, like basically our debt burden, is getting bigger each year. And so they predict that for the next 4 years, the deficit will grow by $150 billion. So that basically means we owe an extra $150 billion on our debt, which is not great. Seeing is, all the changes here is them trying to increase the amount of taxes that they bring into the government, yet they project a deficit every single year. And not a small deficit too, like $30 billion per year is a crazy amount of money that they're losing. And if we head to The Guardian and we see their overview of the budget, they have here winners and losers, a little summary. And they're saying here that the winners are the taxpayers, but again, it's just that $250 offset. But one thing that they did do, which was actually good, I'll give props to Jim Chalmers for this, is they lowered the tax rate between 18K and 45K down to 15% next year, and then they're going to drop it to an even further 14% in July 2027. So, it doesn't sound like a lot, but you might save a few dollars. It's actually a good change. Props. And then they're also increasing the tax deduction to $1,000 without needing any receipts for 2026 to 2027 tax return. So, you know what I like to say, the tax grabs, or sorry, the money grabs, short term, they sound great, but long term, they're not great. So this $1,000 to me is not a great change, but I'm sure some people might see this as a nice change. You reduce your taxable income by $1,000. It doesn't really help us long term, but, good on you guys. They also increased the size of the government by 2,000 employees, okay? So if we do a little bit of calculating here, 2,000, let's say the average income of these public servants is, let's say, $70,000. So it's going to cost them an extra $140 million per year to pay for these public servants. I don't know what they need 217,000 public servants for, but they claim that it remains below historical levels compared to the total population. 9, 7, and 10 U's will all be exempt from paying any sort of commercial broadcasting tax for 2 years until June 2028. And they're also giving them $111 million over the next 5 years of taxpayer dollars, keep that in mind, to do all of their journalism and news coverage. Do they need $111 million? Personally, I don't think so. But maybe this will help us learn about the war in Iran more accurately. See if they actually make accurate news stories about it. But the key takeaway of this budget is a tax grab. The budget is increasing the tax burden on ordinary Australians while undermining incentives for investment, productivity, and business confidence. Did they address anything to do with productivity? No. Did they help small businesses? Not really. The tax offset, can go towards small businesses and sole traders, but it doesn't really help them. And what does it mean for us young Aussies? Well, the housing market is still impossible to get into. Negative gearing is still available for property investors and these people who own, dozens and dozens of homes that we can't get access to. So if you're a renter right now, you're not going to see any benefits. And if you're trying to get into the housing market, you're going to continue to struggle. This budget isn't really helping us, and it feels like this government doesn't really care about us young Aussies. Everything they're doing is like they're saying that they're trying to help us, and they've done this housing cash grab, and that they've improved this tax offset, and they're building more houses. They're increasing supply and they're reducing demand, but all we've seen is housing prices continue to go up. The housing supply market hasn't really gone up, and it's just getting harder and harder to get into the housing market. So in my opinion, this is just a big L for all of us young Aussies trying to survive. Cost of living is still super high. They didn't really do anything with HEX debt, and the housing market's impossible. So overall, it's a big L for all of us. So sorry to be a bit of a doomer, but these guys didn't really do much. And one more thing that they said, Jim Chalmers says that the conflict in the Middle East will slow Australia's economic growth from 2.25% to 1.75%. So it's going to go down by 0.5% next year, which kind of sucks. But yeah, that's the end of this video. It sucks that the federal budget is not that fantastic, but let's stay optimistic. Let's stay hopeful, guys. Stay locked in. We got this. We're going to fix this country and make it great for us young Aussies, Make sure you stay subscribed, and let me know in the comments below your favorite part of the federal budget, because there are a lot of goodies in here to talk about. So, thanks guys. Take care.